Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Am I here? I'm not hearing me. Hello? I'm not hearing me. Hello? Do I have the wrong mic? Hello? I'm hearing me with too much gain. Hey, hi guys. How you doing? Trying to get it together here. Not really good on my end. Is Susan there? Suze, are you there? Hello? Hi. Anyway, guys, tons of news today. Of course. And, I mean, we totally forget that this Neil Gorsuch is in his second day of testimony on Capitol Hill as well. Is Susan there? The program is processing. May I just say, fuck. That, it just, I mean, oh, dear. So, Suze, if you're hearing me, hang in there. We're trying. Sometimes I think there's someone up there trying to tell me I'm not supposed to be doing a show. I don't know. Welcome to the rest of you. I will try to get things together here. And good God, where to start? If you watched any of the hearing yesterday, and I'm talking about the House Intelligence Committee, wow. I mean, wow on so many levels, I don't even know where to begin. Wow, to my mind, mostly the Republicans on the committee not even comprehending what is the big story. Not even keeping their eye on what's important. You had the FBI director telling you that a hostile foreign power had actively sought and succeeded in large part to what's the goddamn word? To affect, that's not the word I was looking for, the American election. And that the winner of that election, Donald Trump and his cohort, were potentially actively colluding in the effort. That is so huge. It is unlike anything ever before in our country. It makes Watergate look virginal. And yet there was this Trey Gowdy, and there was Nunez, and they were acting as if what the big story was that somebody leaked that the treasonous General Flynn had talked to the Russian ambassador. And you have to find that leaker. Mind-boggling. And I was so happy to see a quote from historian, and of course, let me find again, historian Douglas Brinkley, presidential historian Douglas Brinkley, who said what I was thinking after watching. There's a smell of treason in the air, he said. There's a smell of treason in the air. And he went on to say, imagine if J. Edgar Hoover or any other FBI director would have testified against a sitting president. It would have been a mind-boggling event. The fact that so many of us are like, it's just another day in Trump land, you need a historian to hit you upside the head and remind you that what we saw yesterday was unprecedented, was mind-boggling, and there's a smell of treason in the air. All right, we are not, but is Susan aware of what's happening? Okay. We're trying to get her on. Anyway. So, I mean, that's, I guess what's most troubling to me is the Republicans. Because if there's a smell of treason in the air, there is the stench of a Congress controlled by a party that is refusing to acknowledge the level of treachery that the FBI is investigating. Unbelievable. A smell of treason. And then, in this atmosphere in which we're pummeled on an almost hourly basis with information that you think, what? Also yesterday, just as a sidebar comes flying out of my Twitter stream, our Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, has announced that he's skipping the NATO meeting scheduled next month and instead going to Moscow. Now, let's just stop and take a deep breath. On the same day that the head of the FBI and the also the NSA, is that who the admiral represents? I think so. We're telling the Congress and the people of the country that they were investigating potential collusion between the seated administration and the Russian government that they also say quite clearly tried to influence our election. And our Secretary of State is telling our allies in NATO, I'm sorry, guys, but I don't have time to come and be with you. I got to get over there to our pal Vlad at the Kremlin. Sorry, scheduling conflict. But we know where our bread gets buttered. Let me just say this. Any other administration in the history of this country would no more send their Secretary of State to the Kremlin after this announcement by our FBI director. It's like we go scurrying to him. You don't. You don't even talk to him. You throw the book at him. You certainly don't go to his nest of vipers carrying your briefcase. What the hell is going on? Spurns NATO, which exists as a bulwark against Russia. Our Secretary of State spurns our side and runs instead to the enemy. Even as the FBI director is suggesting that there might be collusion between the Kremlin and the White House. I mean, I guess what's so astonishing to me is that these guys don't even bother to be subtle. I have to admit, I think the Tillerson thing blew my mind more than any other little tidbit that came out, because I was hardly shocked that the FBI shot down Trump's Trump's slanderous accusations about Barack Obama. I'm not surprised that we find out that the Trump White House is under investigation by the FBI. Criminal investigation. None of that surprised me as much as, and with all of that, our Secretary of State goes running to the Kremlin, trash something as precious as trust or faith. And NATO used to trust that we were on their side. They didn't lose sleep. Is the United States on our side? Hell, I mean, come on. Duh. They don't know that's true anymore. In fact, they're given a lot of indications that it is not. These guys are blowing up just as Steve Bannon wanted to. They're blowing up the world order. A world order that has been in place since the end of the devastation of World War II. And as far as most people who are serious and look at geopolitics would say, has done the job of keeping Europe intact and not at war, has kept the Russians where they are, and has kept the world relatively calm. Blowing it up. So, my brother called me last night. He, ready to commit suicide. He's just beside himself. And I was saying, no, I think this is the beginning of the end of them. How can you say that? He said they're going to. And I don't know. Am I being naive that what we're seeing is just so clear, so egregious, that there is no way that we can tolerate this man in the White House for much longer? He will be impeached. Maybe before the year's out. Except with Republicans in Congress, it's hard to believe that they would ever turn on him unless they perceive their future at stake, right? His approval ratings go maybe 5 more points down. What despicable aiders and abettors of traitors they are. Incredible. And so, because the Trump White House is in a state of, I don't even think the word chaos quite says it, but we'll stick with chaos for want of a better word. So, with the Trump White House in chaos, who, of course, is coming to the rescue? Some wise old gray-haired head who served in other administrations. A wise man who can maybe right this ship. Like a David Gergen who's stepped in for Republican presidents, for Democratic presidents, because he is a patriot. No, of course not. Who's coming to the rescue of the Trump White House? Ivanka. Who inexplicably we last saw seated next to the German Chancellor Angela Merkel, the president's daughter. Now, if Malia or Sasha had been seated next to the Chancellor of Germany during a state visit, I would think there would have been some incredulity voiced, outrage even voiced. What the hell was Ivanka doing there? Well, now, Daddy needs her more than ever, so it has been announced that she is into the White House. She has her own office there in the West Wing. There is no formal job title. You know why? Because even these criminals know that the nepotism laws would not allow it. And so she's just there, and she's not getting a paycheck. But she is being given classified clearance. She is being given a government-issued communication device. She's got to be there to try to calm Daddy. Do you have any idea how screwed up this is? How we, the United States of America, are now governed by a buffoon, a whole host of buffoons, that we have lost the trust of the world, that we are a laughing stock. If they're not laughing at us, they're scared shitless about what could happen next. Because when a vacuum like this is created, when the United States of America essentially goes missing, others will seize the opportunity. Incredible. I will spend the rest of my life attempting to comprehend and perhaps forgive the people who put this man in the White House. Ay, ay, ay. So, can we take phone calls? We can't. We're really, and you guys aren't even emailing me. I feel like I'm here by myself, having lost my mind, and I'm just sort of ranting into the chill spring morning. If you want to email me, it's Lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Nightmare. A smell of treason in the air. And if the Democrats let Gorsuch through, I will self-immolate on Grant Street. I don't know. There's no way that this administration deserves a seat selection. The last president, Barack Obama, deserved one. They said he didn't. Well, if any president is less legitimate than the one we've got there now, and is up to no good more than the one we got there now, there is no way the Democrats should allow him to fill a vacant seat on the Supreme Court. That was a seat that was to be filled 12 months ago. David Leonhardt had it, I think, pretty on the nose in a column he wrote in today's New York Times in regard to this outrageous behavior of Trey Gowdy. Is that jerk's name? The Benghazi guy who expressed no outrage or concern at all about the Kremlin's trying to mess up our election. And no curiosity about the president's lies, no curiosity about the president's affection for the man in the Kremlin. Instead, all these Republicans yesterday wanted to know was, how did somebody get hold of that transcript of General Flynn, the president's national security advisor, talking to the Russian ambassador? We want to hang that person, the messenger. The messenger who let us peek into this nest of traitorous vipers. Kill the messenger. These Republican House members are members of a branch of government that the Constitution holds as an equal to the presidency. But they acted like Trump staff members, decrying leaks about Russia's attack rather than the attack itself. He says the equivalent with Watergate is claiming that Deep Throat was worse than Haldeman, Ehrlichman, Nixon, and the whole bunch of crooks. We've got to find this Deep Throat. That's exactly what it is. That is exactly how far we've come. It's not a direction that anyone in their right mind would want. We are in serious trouble. And then you had the president's liar spokesman, Spicer, suggesting that some of the people that the FBI is clearly investigating, like the former chair of Trump's campaign, Paul Manafort, Spicer yesterday is heard to tell the press corps that Paul Manafort was what? What did he say exactly? I can't remember. But essentially, did not have a role. I mean, was very inconsequential. He was the campaign manager. Barely knew him. If he walked in the door, I wouldn't recognize him. Incredible. You remember, Sean, the guy who you had to let go last August after that ledger popped up over there in the Ukraine listing millions and millions of dollars in cash payments to Manafort from that pro-Russian party in the Ukraine? Remember that? Yeah. And now, a member of parliament in the Ukraine yesterday released documents that show that Manafort tried to hide the payments and that, in fact, the guy in the parliament said he had an invoice that showed $750,000 funneled through an offshore account and disguised as payment for some computers when, in fact, it was to go directly into the pocket of Paul Manafort for all his wonderful work for the pro-Kremlin Ukraine party. I'm telling you, these guys make Nixon's White House look like the Hardy Boys, look like Eagle Scouts. Extraordinary. Oh, God. Okay, to your emails. Chuck writes, Comey said yesterday that the Russians will be back. Oh, yeah. In 2020 or in 2018. Oh, I don't think there's any doubt. Why would they go? It worked. They got their guy in. They have sowed so much discord and now lack of trust in our democracy. Does it even function? Does it work? Why wouldn't they go at it again? Trying to keep that Republican majority in the Congress. They'll be working real hard to keep those treasonous gops in Congress and in control. Chuck writes, if you saw Chris Potter's articles over the weekend on gerrymandering and redrawing districts, we're screwed. The Democrats are screwed already in 2018. There was amazing picture of two of the congressional districts in Pennsylvania. One of them, Murphy's. If that ain't a gerrymander, then what the F is it? It is the most tortured looking thing. And then there's a district even more absurd looking, I think south of Philly. And it's absurd. There is no way. You can see that like every other street maybe is in the district and every other street is in somebody else's. It is the most absurd. Unbelievable. So, Jesus. Bree writes. Oh, he's writing about this new ban that just popped up yesterday, targeting Muslim countries and air travel. He says, Lynn, a new ban has apparently been instituted. Yes, banning electronics. I think anything larger than any electronic device larger than a cell phone you can't have in the cabin if you're flying out of these Muslim airports. Oh, Bree, I didn't think of that. He says it'll affect me because he's often in Dubai. It will affect me on trips from Dubai back to the U.S. However, I have no idea what the specifics are. It says cell phones are allowed, but not tablets and laptops. Yet what if I have a phablet? What's that? I think a phablet, whatever that is, ain't going to pass muster either. Anything bigger than a smartphone, they won't let you have it because it could be a bomb. Also, the devices are allowed to go in the checked luggage, so the devices will still be on the planes. Right. So you could have a suicide bomber. But if somebody doesn't want to suicide, that would prevent them, I guess. Bree says, I'm all for safety and I understand travel restrictions for the most part, but I don't understand this one. Where are the details? How does this make things safer? Well, Bree, you're dealing with the Trump White House here. Did you expect particulars? Did you expect to have some heads up about this new ban? No, it just bang. Just happened last night, right? I'm sure specifics will be forthcoming, but it's screwing up a lot of business travel, I'm sure. I'm sure. Oh. Somebody wants my sound raised. Henri writes, switching around the channels yesterday, MSNBC, CNN, even the broadcast channels were all covering Comey's hearing. But not Fox. You're kidding. Fox didn't cover the Comey hearing? Like might be the biggest political story, not even of the century, of the entire history of the United States of America, that a sitting president is a traitor, that his administration openly, perhaps, colluded with the Russians. They didn't cover that hearing. No, they were covering the Gorsuch hearing. Unbelievable. Henry goes on to say the Comey hearing was a dog and pony show. In his opening remarks, he mentioned a closed-door hearing with the very same members of the committee. So these questions had already been asked in a closed-door session. So we wasted a day listening to Comey mostly say no comment. Well, yeah. I found it annoying that they kept asking questions which they knew damn well the response was going to be, I can't comment. I can't comment. But I'll tell you one guy we've gotten to know who is a serious representative of the people, clearly takes his job seriously, not a flashy guy, just doing his job, is this Adam Schiff. Is it Adam Schiff? The, I guess, the ranking Democrat on the committee. Man, he laid out yesterday. He connected the dots. I mean, starting with every little last thing you ever heard. Starting way back during the campaign. Showing this, that, and how the hell that all this huge bunch of known factors could just be coincidence. They all point to collusion with the Kremlin. There's so many. It's mind-boggling. Look it up. If sometimes, your head starts going in circles because, well, the sheer volume of big stories that you're supposed to digest every few seconds. Kathleen writes, I'm down with the ghastly flu. Oh, God. Don't tell me. Been there. I know it. Horrible. There's so many out there. There's I feel for everyone who's sick. But she says, all I can say is that I have no words for what is happening. I thought that I'd wake up today with news of criminal charges against a lot of people. God bless you for keeping at this. Well, no, those criminal charges are going to take a long time. Long time. But, I mean, what's the charge against the Republicans in Congress? To me, None of this could be happening if they weren't so complicit. It's really amazing. All right. Listen, guys, I'm going to do a more long-form thing that I want to share with you. And it'll take us at least away from D.C. for a minute, but it will keep us in the country and observing the consequences of ill-thought-out policy. This was a first of two articles that was in the New York Times Sunday and Monday, but it's a story that I've talked about many times before because it's one of the things that just boils my blood, and that is the outrageous use of SWAT teams all over this country to essentially serve warrants. And they all dress up in their gear. I mean, it's men playing at being cops, dressing up and doing all this stuff. And that is enough to make me crazy. The militarization of our police. But these articles point out how this is not only a stupid, over-the-top, indefensible manner of law enforcement, but it gets innocent people killed all the time. Let me tell you just one story. I can't believe we don't know this story. Why wasn't this big news? Cornelia, Georgia. It's a little town on the edge of Appalachia. Has about 5,000 residents. Sleepy little place. I will read you the next two paragraphs. At 2:15 a.m. on a moonlight night in May of 2014, 10 officers rolled up on a driveway in Cornelia in an armored Humvee. 3 of them poised to leap off the running boards. They carried Colt submachine guns, light-mounted AR-15 rifles, and Glock 40 caliber sidearms. Many wore green body armor and Kevlar helmets. They had a door-breaching shotgun, a battering ram, sledgehammers, Halligan bars for smashing windows, a ballistic shield, and a potent flashbang grenade. The target was a single-story ranch-style house on Lakeview Heights Circle. Just 4 hours earlier, 3 informants had bought $50 worth of methamphetamine in the front yard of that house. And that was enough to persuade the county's chief magistrate to approve a no-knock search warrant authorizing the SWAT operators to storm the ranch house without warning. A $50 drug purchase. The point man on the entry team found the side door locked, nodded to Deputy Jason Scribbling, who took 2 swings with the metal battering ram. As the door splintered near the deadbolt, he yelled, "Sheriff's Department! Search warrant!" Another deputy, Charles Long, had already pulled the pin on his flashbang grenade. He placed his left hand on Deputy Stribling's back for stability, peered quickly into the dark, and tossed the armed explosive about 3 feet inside the door. It landed in a playpen. For a $50 drug buy. It landed in a playpen. The baby that was in that playpen was burned all over his body, so much so that his ribs were showing. He had shrapnel wounds. His jaw was broken. He was, I'm looking for the exact, nightmarish. Obviously, that little child, 19 months old, was not a drug seller. He underwent his 15th surgery last year. There's many more to come. He is still not put back together again. But the guys got to dress up like they were, like soldiers, and they got to throw grenades and use all that neat crap they got from the Pentagon. And it's exciting. It's an adrenaline rush. Man, is it fun. Here's a SWAT guy from Dayton, Ohio. He rose all the way up to assistant chief there in Dayton. He says this: it makes no sense at all. Why would you run into a gunfight? I mean, if we're going to risk our lives, we risk them for a hostage, for a citizen, for a fellow officer. You don't want to risk anybody's life for drugs. Why would I risk anybody's life to save an ounce of something that is coming into the country by the freighter load? Well, because you get to play cops and robbers. Here's a criminologist. There are factors that contribute to the tactic, the no-knock, slam-bang tactic of using SWAT to serve warrants. Some of it derives from the adrenalized, hyper-masculinized, militaristic ethos of SWAT. Duh. The criminologist says it's culturally intoxicating. It's a rush. It involves dressing up in body armor and provocative face coverings and enhanced hearing sets, a cyborg 21st century kind of appeal. And instead of sitting around and waiting for something to happen twice or three times a year, you go out and you make it happen. There used to be something called the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution. That should have made this kind of thing absolutely illegal, unconstitutional. But, you elect Republicans. They stick these people on the Supreme Court who, frankly, are willing to throw the Constitution away if it means they can get a bad guy. Do you know how many times they've done these SWAT things and they've hit the wrong house? Wrong address? Happens all the time. I mean, all the time. Happens more than you can imagine. And people have been killed. totally innocent people. Man, you're lying in your bed. You hear people bursting into your home, screaming, grenades going on. If you've got a gun, and an awful lot of Americans do, if you got a gun, you grab it and you start shooting, right? So, lots of cops have been killed during these absurd raids because the homeowner doesn't know what the hell's going on and is in true fear of their lives. And then that homeowner ends up on trial for capital murder charges of having killed cops. All to get some low-level drug dealer? You're kidding. And nobody knows how many of these absurd things are going on because, get this, the federal government, that would be the Congress, has refused to mandate that police agencies report on SWAT operations and keep track of them so that there's some sense of how much of this is going on. To show you how recent this is and how we've come to normalize behaviors and, in fact, decriminalize criminal behaviors if they're done by law enforcement. How recent this is. I'm going to do a timeline here for you about that Fourth Amendment. First of all, if you look at the ability of law enforcement to come into your home and seize you or seize property that you own, you know, our Constitution protects us. You can't do that. And that was even before the Founding Fathers, because the sense that a man's home was his castle goes all the way back to English common law. You can trace it back to 1604, a very specific case. In England, in 1604, they said, you cannot allow government to intrude into a person's home unannounced. So, we'll cut 250, 280 years ahead, and we get the United States Constitution, 1791. And the Founding Fathers put this in the Constitution. The U.S. Constitution bans unreasonable searches and seizures, right? That's, again, the Castle Doctrine. It's in our Fourth Amendment. Jump all the way ahead to 1914, okay? The Supreme Court of the United States in 1914 said that evidence that the police get from illegally entering and searching someone's house cannot be used in a trial. So, 1914, 100 years back, the court is saying, no, hey, guys, law enforcement, you got to play by the rules. And this is sacrosanct, a person's home. You can't go in and take stuff. We got this Fourth Amendment. And if you do and you find something, we're not going to let you use it at trial because you got it illegally. Okay, let's cut ahead to the 50s, 1958. Oh, I don't think of that as a very liberal era, but get this, 1958. In a case called Miller versus United States, the Supreme Court clearly found that prior notice is required before police can force entry. 58. So this was sacrosanct. And then things start to change. And here's where they start to change. It's this recently. 1995. Okay? The Supreme Court said in a case called Wilson v. Arkansas, police need not knock if there is risk of danger or destruction of evidence. That case, 1995, upends all the preceding law for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years because you got a bunch of friggin' Republicans on... Sorry, sleep. And then it gets worse. 1997, 2 years later. Case called Richards v. Wisconsin. The court says only reasonable suspicion of danger or evidence destruction is needed to force entry. So they even opened it up more. You don't have to know there's evidence in there. You can think there's evidence that might be destroyed in there, so you can bust right into somebody's house. 2003. U.S. v. Banks. Police can force entry 15 seconds after knocking. Knock, 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 knock. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Bang! They don't have to have any reason. Cops can knock on your door. Once they knock, they got 15 seconds. If you don't open the door, they can ram in. Maybe you're in the bathroom and taking a shower. I don't know. But they can come barreling through. You think it won't happen? I'm telling you, reminding you. They get the addresses wrong a lot. And the last erosion in our lifetime, 2006, Hudson v. Michigan. Any evidence obtained from illegal searches is admissible. Total turnaround from the 1914 court. What has happened to us? What has happened to us? At least 81 innocent civilians and 13 law enforcement officers have died in these raids in the last 6 years. One raid in 2013, 26-year-old former Marine was shot more than 20 times as agents broke into his home in Tucson. Nothing criminal was found in that house. He was shot 20 times. A guy who'd survived Afghanistan dies in his own home in the punch-drunk, militaristic, machoized U.S. of A. law enforcement. They were sure there were drugs in there. He's dead. No drugs. In all these cases like this, no charges have been brought against the cops. None. There have been deaths and serious injuries when warrants were served on, get this, were served because people were suspected of running illegal poker games. Illegal poker game in somebody's house yields a SWAT team coming in, flash, slam, bang, this, that, and people have died. SWAT teams have burst into people's homes because there was a suspicion they were brewing some moonshine in here. People were killed. SWAT teams have gone in because they had a report that someone in the house was neglecting a pet. Injuries in that. Whatever happened to police coming to your door on a sunny afternoon, knocking, hello, excuse us, we have a complaint that says, what the hell? The ACLU did a recent study of 20 cities, showed that 42% of those subject to these kind of, whoa, SWAT raids were black. Oh, shock. You mean they don't do this in Fox Chapel? Eh? They don't do it in Sewickley, Mount Lebanon? No. No, they do it in, Homewood. The Hill. Slam, bang, 42%, the ACLU says, are black people. 12% are Hispanic people. And it is not uncommon for all of this theater to beget nothing actionable, or maybe, oh, look, we found a roach over here, and I don't mean one that skitters across the floor, like minuscule bits where they could find in my house. Extraordinary. So I found it fascinating, depressing, but I mean, that's going on in this supposedly great United States of America, even as we speak. And I don't know. So anyway, on Friday, we've got the author of the cyanide, Death by Cyanide. And that is the case here of the researcher, Dr. Autumn Klein, poisoned with cyanide by her researcher doctor husband, who's now serving, I think, life. It reads like it's a true crime novel. And even though we might have followed it at the time in the paper, man, it's a page turner. So she'll be on. Paula Reed, who's also a reporter for the Post-Gazette. And I might add, she also just covered the horrific story of the mother from the North Hills who drowned her two little boys. And has been found mentally ill, and she got convicted of third-degree murder? I mean, come on. She had a plan, but she's nuts. So anyway, I know Paula Reed Ward also covered that extraordinary case. So we're doing crime, true crime, on Friday. Okay? Thank you so much for spending any time with me. My apologies to my sister and to anybody who was looking forward to hearing from her. And we'll try to get our act together here for tomorrow. Okay? Working on it. Working on it. Have a good one.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.